So major news broke early this morning when it was announced that Stephon Gilmore, former Defensive Player of the Year just a couple of years ago with the Patriots, was going to be released by New England later this afternoon. However, a little change to that, as when you have a situation where a player is going to be cut, it's best offer or whatever. Test free agency, sign wherever you want. But a best offer did end up coming through, and it wasn't much. But it was a 2023, so not even this next draft. The draft 2 years from now, essentially, for Stephon Gilmore to go to the Panthers. A 2023 sixth for still a very, very good corner. He's been injured this year. He's still not going to be healthy next week or even the week after that. He's eligible to be reinstated following week 6, I believe, from the physically unable to perform list. So, or at least he is expected to be back and healthy by that point. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But when you take one of the best defenses in the league right now, and yeah, the level of competition they've played isn't spectacular, but they have played fairly well up until Cowboys game. They're still one of the best defenses in the league. You add Stephon Gilmore to that team, this is unreal for the Panthers to add this type of player, especially, and you hate to see it, but JC Horn's going to be out for the year. That's just the reality. Stephon Gilmore is quite the replacement. And for years to come, potentially, if the Panthers can work out a long-term deal, this is an unbelievable move, all things considered. Stephon Gilmore, from South Carolina, went to school at South Carolina in Columbia for the Gamecocks. Now going back home, it's roughly the same area, North Carolina versus South Carolina. But still, Stephon Gilmore is just in a dream situation for a team that's developing and progressing rather quickly. It's an awesome, awesome situation for Gilmore and the Panthers. We'll also talk about Jalen Smith, but everyone's asking me why this happened. Why would the Patriots do this? Why would they release him? Stephon Gilmore is in the final year of his deal. Let's go ahead and check Spotrac here. So as you can see for visual evidence, I guess, Stephon Gilmore was in the final year of his deal with New England, and they no longer owe him any money. They now don't owe him anything. The remainder of this contract will be paid by the Panthers, and for a team that needed to clear salary cap, I think they were only about 56,000, something like that, reported over the salary cap. So they needed to clear cap space. I find a tweet of it here. It was roughly that. It's fairly irrelevant, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, but it was, I think, about 56,000 over. The Patriots needed to clear cap space, and they just realized that they're not going to be as competitive as they would like to be. And based on Stephon Gilmore's injury, it just isn't worth it for the Patriots to continue to pay Stephon Gilmore when the value that you would be receiving in return from his play is not going to be there for this season. Had he been under contract through 2022 or beyond, yeah, this is a different story. This trade, started out as a release, probably never even comes close to materializing. But in this situation where, yeah, there's no real value to keeping him on the team, it does make sense to trade him. If you can not pay him and then use that money in this upcoming offseason to make your team better, and they've paid a lot of money this past offseason, so they're going to need money to re-sign players, it makes a lot of sense to get rid of Stephon Gilmore. As crazy as that sounds for a guy that won Defensive Player of the Year as far back as this season, 2019. So, big get for the Panthers. I think it's a win-win, I guess, on both sides. Obviously, for the Patriots, you're losing a big-time player, but he wouldn't have had the value to your team anyway. So what's the point of having a great player if he's not going to be great for you? He's not going to be on the field, and you're not going to be extremely competitive. So I get it from the Patriots end, but obviously, yeah, it does look pretty bad to give up the Defensive Player of the Year from just a couple seasons ago. One of the only defensive backs to win Defensive Player of the Year within the past several decades. So good move on the Panthers, though, to scoop him up and say, hey, we don't want any other team to grab him in free agency from us. We want him on our team right now, and we probably want to re-sign him long-term. Now, as for Jalen Smith, this one makes no sense to me, and I'll tell you why. It's not because, oh man, Jalen Smith is so good that he can't be released. The thing that doesn't make sense to me is Jalen Smith in the offseason of 2019 signed a 6-year, $68 million contract. 20 mil almost guaranteed at sign. And he was getting paid like one of the better linebackers in the league. However, Jalen Smith, as many of us know, is not one of the better linebackers in the league. In fact, he's so not one of the better linebackers in the league that he was essentially not even starting for this Cowboys team anymore. And yeah, I might take Jabril Cox over him as a player right now. The rookie out of LSU, went to North Dakota State previously, drafted by the Cowboys in like the 5th. And if Micah Parsons is going to be like an edge player now, like Jabril Cox can start right away. Jalen Smith essentially offers no value. And it's been the case for a while where he just can't cover anybody at all. He was like what Blake Martinez was in Green Bay. He's like getting a ton of tackles maybe, but he's not exactly tackling those guys at or near the line of scrimmage. They're, tackles 8 yards plus down the field because he's allowing catches downfield. He can't cover anybody. He is so night and day different from the player he was at Notre Dame pre-injury, and it sucks to see, man. He was awesome for Notre Dame. I would say probably a top 2 defensive player for them over the past decade in terms of general skill. And he's just clearly, after injury, never really would develop into what you thought he could be when he was playing for the Fighting Irish. But it just makes no sense to give him that monster contract and then get rid of him. They still owe him a ton of money. They still owe him a ton. I think it's, $7 million for this season alone. But where's Jalen Smith going to sign? There's still potential for him to be good. It just depends on what role he's going to be playing. My big problem with Jalen Smith is I don't think he's a particularly good run defender either. So what's his actual value as a player? When you can't cover and you can't fill run lanes and make tackles, what is your value as a linebacker? It's limited. So yeah, maybe Jalen Smith can play an impact for a team. He's still probably about an average linebacker in the league. He's just not particularly great at anything. I have no idea what team is going to sign him. I don't think that highly of him as a player overall. But yeah, Jalen Smith is just, I think, going to be a non-factor for almost any team that he goes to. The thing that just didn't make sense was the ridiculous contract that the Cowboys gave him, only then to release him. So kind of surprising news in general to see those 2 players released mid-season. And well, I guess Stephon Gilmore ended up not being released. He ended up being traded. But with the Panthers' recent moves, and I talk about CJ Henderson's trade on my podcast with Wheels and Not the Expert. That link's down in the description. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's on Spotify. It's on Anchor. It's on YouTube. The YouTube channel for video version of that is down in the description as well. It's called Couch Quarterbacks. Again, you can just click the link, and it's usually me, Wheels, and Not the Expert. We're going to have clips on this channel as well if you guys don't have time to watch the full thing. So they're usually quicker, and they should be a good watch for a lot of you guys. So if you enjoy that type of content, you enjoy these creators, which is me, Wheels, and Not the Expert, and just general football talk. We talk about like every college football game, every NFL game, and predictions for the upcoming week and big storylines and things. I will say that the format of the podcast is going to be changing. We found that going over every single game ad nauseum is maybe not the best way to do things, and we're going to focus more on bigger storylines and bigger games and things like that. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. And again, there will be a lot of clips to accompany the long form versions, but you guys can find the full thing in the description. Couch Quarterbacks podcast, and there are links to Spotify, Apple in my description, and will be in the descriptions for these videos as well. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.
I hit it at the park, bend bones. See me high step to the end zone. My life like a game, Nintendo. Playing with the best, let them know. Get off the track, the train's coming through. Yeah. Promise you get in my way, then you best believe I'ma just run over you. Yeah. Papa turn taking it back to the house. Defensive joke, I'm laughing so loud. Speedbird's good.